AI agents made simple. And we are going to discover how solopreneurs can begin using agentic AI to get real work done. That word has been tossed around a lot, and we're going to talk about what agentic really means and what autonomous means and what AI assistance means. We're going to try to shift all that around, shake it up, and distill it in a way that makes sense to you. So today, AI has changed. There's a lot that's gone on. And some people have thought, whew, back when ChatGPT came, oh my goodness, everything started changing and we've got all these things going on. Well, by the end of this session, my friend, just know that you're going to understand what agentic AI actually means, how tasks and skills can work together to help you begin to create workflows. You're going to also be able to identify agentic worthy tasks. Not everything needs to be produced by an agentic AI. So we're going to see what does and what doesn't. And also where you still belong in the process, because we never completely abandon our work. Some people like to have AI just do all of it and answer emails and mess with their calendar. And I'm not one of those people. I'm not that important, really. So I can handle emails and I like answering emails. I like answering. Someone takes the time to email me. I want to take the time to email them back just to show them that respect. So there's certain things that I just don't use AI for, and I don't really feel like it's a detriment. But if you're one of those people that is super, super busy and you don't have an assistant yet, by all means, no guilt, no shame. Go ahead and use it by all means. So without further ado, let's take a quick glance at AI. It didn't just suddenly emerge. It didn't suddenly arrive. If you look at this graph, we can see that it all started back in 1966. Oh my goodness. Can anybody remember 1966, the 60s, right? It started with Eliza, that was a chat bot. And Eliza simply mirrored what you said. So if you talk to Eliza and you'd say, Eliza, I'm having a bad day. Eliza would say, oh, why are you having a bad day? But that was the beginning of today, right? 1966. 1992, we started seeing some fraud detection advances. And then to 2011, we were able to see AI in action as a thinking technology. Back then in 2011, there was Watson who appeared on the show Jeopardy and actually won. So pretty amazing that back then we had technology that was already very intuitive, like this learning model, and it was answering questions. 2011, we saw Siri. Remember Siri? We had AI in our pockets. I thought Siri was fantastic when it first came out. I thought, oh my goodness, this is like having an assistant. Right? But Siri is very helpful, just like Alexa is very helpful nowadays. We take it for granted, but we have all this technology around us. Then we had 2017 face recognition. Wow, that was fun, right? Face recognition. We don't have to put a code in, just show our face. But the only problem with that is when I don't have my makeup on or my lashes, the AI doesn't recognize me. So, hey, it's not everything is flawless. In 2017, TSA begins facial recognition pilots. And then 2022 is when we saw AI really blossom. That was when ChatGPT launched, and nothing has been the same since, right? So AI is moving beyond the questions and answers now. We had a lot of fun asking it questions, having it give us answers, getting a little bit of things done. But for solopreneurs who really, technology is not like their main focus, they're usually coaches, consultants, service providers, they're taking care of clients. It's hard for them to implement AI. Well, then what we were doing with something like ChatGPT when it first came out, we would ask it a question, it would get an answer, then we'd ask another question, then get another answer, and then we'd start working, right? But nowadays, it's a little different. Now we set a goal, AI runs a process, it takes multiple actions or multiple steps, it delivers finished work, and then all we do is review it. Pretty cool from before and after, right? So, agentic and autonomous are two words that we need to be very clear because the change that we're seeing, the before and after, is because AI is capable of doing more things. So, these two words get used interchangeably, but they're very, very different. So, let's go over it step by step. Agentic AI, and let me see if I can highlight this so we can see this a little bigger. Agentic AI can work through multiple steps toward a goal. You set the destination. In other words, you tell it what you want done. AI handles the driving, but you're still in the car. You're still there. It reminds me of driver's ed, when we had the instructor in there and he still had like a break or something when we were learning how to drive. Well, it's kind of like that. AI takes over and does multiple steps, but we're still in the loop, so to speak, as they say. So here, what we're seeing now is autonomous AI. So autonomous is a little different. So let me highlight this. Autonomous AI operates with much greater independence. It has autonomy, making and executing decisions with minimal or sometimes no human involvement. That is totally different. That is where we're hands off and it is doing a lot for us. The only hesitation I have with autonomous AI is that everything leading up to it has to be scrutinized and set up very, very clearly and correctly before you set something like this up, because it could make decisions that you don't want it to make decisions. So the type of decisions that maybe um, it didn't have enough information. So we have to be very careful when we get to this level of autonomous AI. But there's a lot we can do with agentic AI, a lot. And you may not even want autonomous AI. You may not want it to do things for you. So let's continue here and look at, oh, I had one more thing. Agents follow a predetermined sequence to complete a draft while autonomous agents make decisions and does the work by itself. Okay, some of what you're doing already is probably agentic. You may not realize it, but there's a lot of features within the tools that we already have that have this agentic feel to it or agentic capabilities. We might not realize it, but it does. The building blocks of agentic AI are already showing up inside the platforms you use every day. And I mean, this goes across many of the platforms or the popular ones that most of us are using, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and others, right? You may be using these assistants without realizing it. So let's see, what are they? So projects is part of that. Custom AI assistants. Some of you might use custom GPTs or GEMs. That has kind of an agentic feel to it. Skills, now that we have skills and we have them across many of the platforms, not just Claude, but we have them in ChatGPT now and in Gemini. So skills is very popular. And we're going to talk more about skills in a second. Scheduled task, that's something also that has this agentic feel. And then tools and integrations, when we connect apps, that has a very agentic feel to it because it's doing some work and connecting or producing something with another tool. So there's a trigger and a result using multiple tools. And then vibe coding. Vibe coding is simply when you use plain English and you're talking to an AI and all of a sudden you see all this Python, this coding going on, and it gives you like a spreadsheet or gives you a chart or it gives you a PowerPoint slide. That's pretty cool. And that's very agentic as well. What you want to do when you're thinking of agentic is what work merits agentic AI. Look at all of the things that a solopreneur does. There's a lot from blogs, podcasts, websites, lead magnets, newsletters, webinars, YouTube, email, social media, case studies that we try to encapsulate maybe a testimonial. And it could be in video, it could be in text, sales pages, ad creative, repurposing, sessions like these, right? There's a lot of things that we do, and that's all considered marketing, right? Getting our word out. And there's a lot there. There's a lot of moving parts. And that's just maybe for one product that you sell. Maybe you sell maybe courses and consulting, right? Those are two different things. So we have to figure out, where can I get the most bang for my buck? What can I use agentic AI to do for me that will take a big weight off my shoulders and focus on those things? Because some of the other things maybe not be worthy of using agentic AI because it really doesn't take you that long. Or you can use another form of AI, like a AI chat or a project, to do it and not have to necessarily go agentic where it's multi-step. So think AI agents as if you were hiring someone. A lot of people use this comparison because it's easy to understand how we should communicate to AI. Because one of the things I realized when I started using AI is how poorly I communicated. I thought I was a communicator. Keep in mind, I was writing, I took public speaking. I thought I was a good communicator. And it wasn't until I started using AI that I realized, oh, I should have told it that. I left that out. I didn't give it the context. So we need to make sure that we treat AI as if we were hiring someone, then we won't omit things, right? Before you write a single instruction for an agentic workflow, now we're talking workflows, we're going into workflows, right? Not just question answer. Work backwards from the result. So what is it that you wanted to do? This is the same thinking you'd apply if you were bringing in a contractor or a specialist. Some of you are service providers and you have contract work. So think of it that way. Ask yourself in that order, right? What would I need to share? If any of you have hired a VA, you would do this as well. So what would great look like? You want to be able to communicate, this is what a good output or a good result would look like, or a good finished product would look like, or a good sales page would look like, or a good graphic would look like, or a good funnel will look like. So you begin to figure out, what does good look like? And then what professional would I hire to do that? Would I need a graphic designer? Would I need a copywriter? Would I need a strategist? What would I need? Do I need a business consultant? And you figure out the role, the type of professional that you would need. So there's a little bit of thinking that goes on first. And then what process would this specialist follow? Like, what's the SOP, so to speak, the standard operating procedure for this? And then what would they need to know? Is there additional context? Is there maybe a brand kit? Is there something that they need to be able to understand, not just the task, but also the macro view of it, how it fits all together in what you're trying to accomplish? So when we're thinking about agentic, we want to be thinking about these things so we can set it up for success, so to speak. Okay, so here, I want you to be able to use agentic AI in a very simple way that's not scary. And the best way I can show you how to do that is to have a wedding. We're going to have an AI wedding. So I want you to remember this. And that's why I decided to create this image. You're going to use scheduled tasks and skills. ChatGPT has it, Claude has it, Gemini has it. Most of you use one of those three. When you marry these two features in these platforms, you can begin to create a workflow. But remember, don't forget what I just told you. You want to figure out what the task is and what the role is, and you want to figure out the SOP, how it's done, and any context that's needed before you even begin to build a skill. But when you marry these two features, you begin to see magic happen. And you don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to go to N8N. You don't have to go to make.com. You don't have to go to Zapier. You can begin with this and see if you need more. Now, you may need more. You may need something more sophisticated than that. That's okay. But this has a lot of power. So let's take a look at this. A skill, we're going to talk about what a skill is how you want the work done. This is where you have the specialist. How do you want the work done? So if you have maybe you have a skill that writes titles. Well, what type of skill would what type of knowledge or what type of expertise would that skill need to be able to produce good titles? Right? So it needed to be a copywriter. Maybe there's some copywriting principles. Maybe there's a copywriter you follow that you love how they teach copywriting. Maybe you follow a certain framework or a certain template. So this is what you want to do, is explain to the skill how you want the work done. The skill isn't just a prompt. It's a reusable set of instructions that captures how a specific type of work should be done. Everyone has a certain way of doing their work. This is what you're trying to capture and share when you create a skill. You build it once and it works for you every time after that. So it is the expertise of a specific thing that needs to be done, the role, the knowledge, the context that AI brings to the task. It's the instructions, the step-by-step or the SOP directions for how to approach and complete the work, right? And that could include constraints as well, what not to include. It's the process, the sequence of action that turns the request into a result. So what else does it need to do? Okay, so maybe it needs to reference a document. Maybe it needs to reference an example. The standards, your quality standards, the tone, the format, the length, what to avoid. This is where, if it has anything to do with writing, this is where you would have your voice, tone, and style, all of that, so that it understands, and what not to do, right? Don't put emojis, don't put M dashes, don't embellish, don't write something that's not true just to fill space. This is where you explain exactly, based on your values, what is correct and what isn't. So you want to give it all of this information. And then lastly, examples. Examples are always helpful because it can then understand, and I wouldn't inundate it with tons of examples. If you have a writing example, that would be good, maybe 2 or 3. But I'm going to explain to you here in a second how you should have certain documents to be able to create skills, more than one skill, that has a lot of your standards, how you do things, the fonts, the colors, everything in a document, so you don't have to repeat this over and over and over again. So these skills are created, and these are the ones that know how to do the work. The task tells AI what needs to happen. So when you have a task, so you have an expert, copywriter sitting on the bench doing nothing, and all of a sudden there's a task. Here's a task. What's the task? Is it a sales page? Is it an email sequence? Is it an opt-in page? Is it social media? What is it, right? Copywriter's sitting there waiting. The task tells it what needs to happen. So a skill is a how, a task is the what. So we have skill, how the work should be done. We have the task, what needs to get done, right? The specific job, right? Is it a sales page? Is it an email sequence? What is it? The inputs and expected output, okay? And then a repeatable AI workflow, consistent, reliable work that doesn't require you to start from scratch. So now you have how to do it. Then you tell it what needs to happen. And then a scheduled task tells it when to do it. So this is when you begin to create that workflow that everybody salivates over, right? They want these workflows. When you marry the scheduled task and skills, you'll be able to create some workflows that are manageable that will help you tremendously without overcomplicating everything. And I'm going to share with you here how to create a skill here in just a second. So here's where we're shifting from just having an AI assistant to AI doing work for you, adding a schedule to your skill and task combination means that the work starts and often finishes without you having to remember to begin it. You could set triggers for this, right? And part of that is scheduling a task. That would be the trigger, right? So here you say the skill again is the how, the task is the what, and the schedule is the when. So everything I just shared with you in the last 5 minutes, we can summarize it this way. The skill is the how, the task is the what, and the schedule is the when. If you remember that, you'll be good to go. Agentic assistants begin doing the work for you. You review the results instead of managing every single step. Now, I'm going to give you some examples. Where to find skills and schedule tasks. So some of you are wondering, okay, where do I find these beautiful little things that are going to do wonderful things for me? Very simple. In ChatGPT, you will see something that says scheduled, and that's where you have your scheduled task. And under plugins, you will find skills. You don't see it on the left yet. Maybe it will come later. I don't know. They're always changing things. But right now, as of today, as of August 11th, 2026, it ain't there. But you go to the plugins and you'll see skills at the top. That's where you find it. So if ChatGPT isn't your flavor Kool-Aid and you like Claude, Claude is a little easier. You go to schedule, those are your scheduled tasks. And then where it says customize, that's where you find the skills. And the final one I wanted to show you was in Gemini. In Gemini, when you go to Spark, Spark is where you will find the schedule and also the skills. Now, all of these, ChatGPT, if you notice, ChatGPT has work now. It has a chat and a work. Work is for that agentic type of work that people are doing. Now, be careful that you don't just click work for just anything that you're doing, something quick and easy. Use the regular chat for most of the stuff. If what you're asking it to do requires work, it will go there on its own. So you don't even have to worry about clicking it. And I'll explain why, because you want to be mindful of the usage, right? And you want to make sure that you choose the right thing to set up for something that's really going to help you, because you're going to be using some of its credits or tokens. So, and I'm going to go over that as well with you too. So in Claude is the same way. Claude has co-work. Now Claude has a way to download it into your computer, and it begins to use folders on your computer. And they also have extensions, Chrome extensions now. So a lot of stuff. We don't have to cover all of that because that's going to make your eyes go glaze over. Gemini, you will find it in Spark. Again, the schedule and the skills are in there. These platforms are already setting things up for that agentic workflow that we're talking about. It's setting things up. Now, all of them come with enough juice, enough power to begin to create these workflows. If you start creating a bunch of them, you could reach a limit. So you need to be careful, and we'll cover that too. So how do you create them in here? It's pretty simple. Most of these have a skill creator that you can work with. It has a little dashboard and it'll help you create the skill. Or you could just go in the chat and explain what you're trying to do and what you need, and have it help you at least with the first prompt of what the skill should be. Or you can have it write the skill for you. So either way, you can go in the chat and start there if you don't know how to find the skill creator, or you can go into the skill creator. I've done both. In Claude, I've used the skill creator, but I've also in ChatGPT just gone into the chat and explained, this is what I want to get done. These are some of the documents I have. What do I need to create this skill? Is there anything I omitted? That way I can go back and forth and ask it some questions as I'm creating it. All right. It can be this simple. An agentic workflow doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to be complicated. Here's what the full loop can look like. It starts with a trigger. So we're looking here at this full loop of when we marry a skill with a scheduled task, this is what it can look like. The trigger would be the schedule. Like if you say every Monday, I want you to do this, or every day of the week from Monday through Friday, I want you to do this. There's a trigger. AI begins. It will use the skill if you tell it to. If you say, every Monday, I want you to do some research, and then I want you to use the skill to write a blog post, and then use my social media skill to create some social posts, it will do that. So in the task itself, you can tell it what you want it to do. It will complete the steps, and then it will deliver the results. I like in ChatGPT, it actually sends you an email and said, hey, it's ready. So you can review it, which is pretty cool. So you review it only because, not because it's not powerful enough, but because your judgment, the filter, the way you filter things, your blueprint, your process, all of that, it needs that and it needs to learn from you. So I would always stay in the loop and take a look at things and adjust as you go. When it starts hitting 100 out of 100, you could get more complicated with it if you want and do more things and create bigger workflows. But this is a great way to get started. So from research to ready to review content, again, here's the example. Every Monday, instead of starting your content week from scratch, a scheduled agentic workflow handles the research, the drafting, and the repurposing and delivers everything to you before you finish your first cup of coffee. So the scheduled task is triggered every Monday morning. The workflow begins automatically. No reminder, nothing. It just does it on its own. And then it starts researching. I have one that researches YouTube videos. You can be very specific. What do you want it to research? If you have specific sites that you like to research, tell it, these are the sites I like you to research, because maybe there's content in there that you really value and you want to stay in the loop of publications that they have. So it could go through the research and tell it how many you want it to research. Because if you just leave it open-ended, it's going to use a lot of credits or a lot of bandwidth there. It's going to work hard and you may not need that many. So just say, I just want some really good relevant topics and give it the parameters. This is for this type of audience and this is what I do. So it has to be relevant to me and how I serve my clients. And so it's going to begin to look. And then you can tell it to use the newsletter skill. If you created a skill to create your newsletter in the format that you want, in the voice, tone, and style, with all of that, the things that you include, the subheads, the way you like it structured, you can say, I want you to choose the best one, knowing me, and you give it a brand kit and you explain. I even give it my personal assessments. So it knows very much how I am. So I give it my personal assessments. I have a brand kit. It understands what I like, what I don't. Oftentimes AI will say, oh, when we're working, it'll say, this sounds like Marisa. I bet you'll like this one out of all these suggestions. And 9 times out of 10, it's correct. It knows me that well. So you can have it begin to write based on the research it did, and then repurpose the content after it's done and take that newsletter content, repurpose it, and create some social posts for the week. Maybe you want 3 social posts and tell it what kind. Do you want a quote? Do you want a video script? Do you want just a post? Tell it what you want Do you want to create a poll maybe on LinkedIn? And it will do that for you. And then it'll deliver for review. So with mine, it shows me the 5 that it researched and the one it picked. So I can look and see which out of the 5, which one did it pick and what were the 4 that it didn't like that it figured didn't align with me. So I can review it and see if it's hitting 10 for 10. So then I can see the draft, and usually I add my own little story. I add some things, but I'm not starting from scratch. I'm not starting with a blank screen. And then I have the social post with a little video script for a 60-minute, 30 to 60-minute reel, and maybe something, a quote. I like it to always pull a quote and write an original quote for me because I like quotes. And it already has my brand kit, so it's got some of my quotes in there, so it knows how I like to frame those. And all I have to do is review it. This is where it becomes very agentic. So Monday morning, rather than go and start researching stuff, I'm just reviewing things. Much helpful, right? So let AI find revenue opportunities. Now, maybe some of you, my fellow copywriters, those of you that are service providers, maybe you have felt a little bit displaced with all this AI stuff. Hey, you can find opportunities for revenue, especially if you're on LinkedIn Premium. It shows you opportunities for contract work, or if you're maybe do fractional work, or you want part-time work, or you want full-time remote work. You can have AI begin to search things for you and deliver it to you on a weekly basis, daily basis, whatever it might be. This is how I pick up opportunities, by using AI for this. So let me show you how it works. Daily scheduled task. The workflow runs automatically, searching across sources to see what's available for opportunities, for revenue opportunities. It could be a job posting, but it's for contract work. So why not look at those resources, right? Search and filter, and this is where it finds the information, whether it's fractional, but you give it the criteria. In fact, if you have a resume for yourself with all the work that you have done, you can upload your resume. You can upload who you are, your brand kit, so it understands what you do and all of the skills that you have. And it'll begin to try to match. It's trying to match. Ooh, this might be a good one. This might be a good one. So it'll begin to do that, and it'll use that filter, and it'll match against your information. And then you simply review it. And if you find one that you think, oh, this fractional work is really interesting, I think I want to go ahead and pursue this and apply, or at least see if I can get in the loop there and get an interview with someone. One of the tools that I created early on was a custom GPT that was an ATS compliant. So a lot of these resumes that get sent out, humans don't review it. It's an AI that's looking through it, looking for certain words, and it will pull some things that feels like a match, and then a human will take a look at it. So why not create your own AI to write it in a way that the other AI will find you? So this is something that I created, and I was able to get 2 people full-time work that were looking for full-time work, were not at all in the online space. And I was able to use it also for my own contract work. So you can do a lot of these things with AI, and it's less time than having to start from scratch. You get on a roll. And this particular, and you can create your own. Just look it up, ATS creator, what ATS is, and it'll explain to you to be able to customize your application so that it gets picked up and you get an opportunity to maybe have an interview. So you're ready for submission once that's done. So this is a great way, especially for service providers. And if you have LinkedIn Premium, it gives you a lot of information there on contract work, but you can have AI search for opportunities as well. Those are just a few ways. Now, the instructions still matter. Now, these are some of the common ways that people quote unquote prompt. So the first one is the structured prompting. You give it a role, you say the task, you give it the context, you give it the guidelines, and you set the boundaries. That's still good. It depends on what you're doing, right? The other way is the natural prompting. Maybe you click that microphone and you just have a conversation and you explain your goal, you ask for follow-up questions, and that's how you begin to prompt. This is number two, this natural prompting where you just open up the microphone and you start talking to it is one way you can create skills. The third is learn from success. Say you're already in a chat and you're going back and forth, and what you produced is amazing. You and the AI have produced something amazing. You say, you know what? I want to be able to do this the next time, just like we did right now. Can you create a skill for me? And that's another way you can do it. And then plan before you build. Like I said, you could, in the situation that I was talking about with the skills in the chat, you could start there and then take that information and go to the skill creator and say, this is what I have so far to create this skill. Or if you have another tool that's outside and maybe it creates apps. I use Lovable and I've created a number of apps. I don't do a lot of the work in Lovable, otherwise it'll eat up credits like crazy. I will go in ChatGPT or in Claude and I'll go through it there and I'll have it help me communicate what I want to see in the app in a way that the Lovable platform will understand. Why not have AI write for AI, right? It makes it a lot easier because they understand each other. So every AI agent action has a cost. This is something that I think a lot of people don't tell people this. And this is important to know. So I want you to know this because people get crazy and say, oh, it's going to answer my emails. It's going to take care of my calendar. It's going to do this. It's going to create that. It's going to interview that. It's going to onboard. Well, you know what? They've got these plans where they're spending hundreds of dollars a month. And most solopreneurs and service providers, consultants, coaches, they don't want to spend, $300-$500 on AI just because they've maxed out their credits or their tokens, right? So we want to be mindful of that. So we have tokens and we have credits. The tokens is the units of text that AI reads and generates. It counts like certain characters. I don't understand completely how it works, but it does. And then credits is what a platform gives you. It gives you a certain amount of credits, and then you can get more credits. And they measure it with credits. You just buy credits, right? You run out and it'll give you a message. You're out of credits. Do you want to buy more credits? And you buy credits. So you think, well, I could buy credits for $50, but then you add $50 and another $50, and you become so dependent on these tools for things that really maybe it doesn't need agentic power to it, that you're starting to spend a lot of money on it. So before adding a step or before adding an agentic workflow, you can test it. And these platforms always have a place in the settings where you can see the usage. So what I do when I'm introducing a new skill that has multiple steps is I will look at the usage, I will go create it, I will do a test run, and I'll go back and I'll look at the usage to see how much it used. And that way it gives me an idea if this is something I can do long-term within the allotted credits that I have already or the tokens that I have already. Or if I do need to buy more, how much is that going to cost me? So here are 12 ways to conserve AI credits and tokens. And this is something I discovered because it's not that I'm a cheapskate, but I want to make sure I'm not wasting money, which I was on Claude. When I first started with Claude, I got, oh, this is so much fun, Claude Cowork. And I was doing things that were wrong. And I was eating up those tokens, those credits like crazy. And I was buying more and I'm going, this is insane. I'm capping out in the middle of the day, in the middle of the work, but I was doing it wrong. So use Markdown for text-based documents. When at all possible, use Markdown. It is a file format that is easier for AI to process. And that is going to be more lightweight, less effort. And so that is one way that you can save on the usage, conserved credits and tokens. Number 2, keep one lean master knowledge base, because as we've begun with AI, ever since ChatGPT, we realized context was important, and we created this document, then we created this document, and we had maybe our brand voice, and then we had about our business, and then we had about our audience, and then we had this, and we had a lot of duplication of things, and we were uploading all these documents, 5, 6, 8 documents, and a lot of the information was repeated. It has to read that. So every time it goes through it, it's using energy. And so if you consolidate it, it's going to have it in one place, nothing repeated, very lean master knowledge base. That's the best thing to do right now, consolidate everything. Number 3, give only the context needed. It doesn't need everything. Just help it focus. Because remember, every time you put more information, it has to comb through all of that each time. So each time you have another question in a chat thread, it has to go through all of that again to answer it. And then you ask another one, it goes through all of that and answer it. That uses up a lot of the juice. So the number 4 is start a new chat for a different task. So if you have something you started and you finish that and you're ready to go into another task, don't continue in one long chat. Because again, why? It's reading everything that preceded the new task, everything that preceded that first task you did. It's going through all of that and then looking at the little bit that you gave it for the second task. And it's going through reading everything from the first task over and over again. And all that consumes energy. So start a new chat. Batch related questions. Every time you say, okay, I have this question that gives the answer. I have another question, gives an answer. I have another question, gives an answer. Each time, again, it's going through all the information to answer that specific question. So give it 2, 3 questions and say, I have questions about this, all in one question, so that when it goes through all the information, it can answer all your questions in one sitting. That will help conserve credits and tokens too. Use projects for ongoing work. Projects are great. So if it's something that merits a project, like if you're writing a book, right? That could be a good example. Keep it in a project. That is very helpful because then you upload all the information once. I have more. Match model to the task. Don't use Cowork if you don't have to in Claude. Just use Claude. You don't have to necessarily use Spark or go into Perplexity has computer now. You don't have to use computer and Perplexity. You just use a chat if it's something simple. So be mindful what is highlighted so that you're always in the chat first, unless you need something a little bit more powerful. Number 8, request only as much output as needed. Again, I kind of referenced this earlier, but if you only need 5 resources, don't just say, I need resources on this, because it might give you 12 documents of resources of things that it did a lot of work. And remember, the output counts too as using up tokens and credits. So tell it, I really only need 5. Or say you're doing something and you're not sure, have it give you a certain number of examples. So request only as much output as you need to make a decision. Be clear before you generate. This is where we need to think a little bit. Okay, what am I going to say? What is it that I want it to do? And clear instructions reduces revisions, because revisions, now that's not what I meant. I don't like that one. I meant to say this. Oh, I forgot the size I needed. I don't need that size. I need another size. Think it through first, and that will help save also. Crop screenshots and images. So if you're giving AI an example of something, especially if you're using like Claude extension and you want it to look at something on your computer, but this goes across for all of them, just take a screenshot of that one piece. You don't have to take a screenshot of your whole computer screen with tabs and everything else open. Just narrow it down to that one section so it understands what you're asking about and what you're referencing. And that's all you need. And that will help as well. So crop those images. test before you scale. This is what I referenced before, where you check the usage, you launch a skill with multiple steps, and then you check the usage again to see. And then revise selectively, not completely. So if there's something it produced and you don't like just one little piece, explain and be very clear to leave the rest alone just to change that one little thing. So that can help as well, specificity. So it might avoid the unnecessary generating of something. So if you think this is helpful, I do have this for you that you can grab this resource because I want you to get the most out of AI without costing a lot of bucks. I don't want you to break the bank, right? And these small little things are so helpful so that you can easily use AI and keep the cost down. And then when you do want to have something robust, you have the funds to spend it on that if it's something that you want to create that's more complex. So there's that resource for you if you like to take a look at that. You don't need to become an AI expert. You don't have, if technology is something that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth, you really don't. You just have to think through your work and figure out what would really help you and begin to communicate clearly. Maybe to yourself first, maybe communicate it to your husband or your wife. Do they understand what you're trying to accomplish? And then go to AI and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And it will help you. It will ask you questions. If you tell it, ask me questions. What did I leave out? It will help you with that. It's amazing what it'll do. So the solopreneur who gets the most from AI, they aren't the ones who know more about how technology works, all the back end bells and whistles. They're the ones who are clear about their own work, their own destination, the things that they're trying to do. If you don't understand like how your funnel is going to work, you can talk to AI and figure out what kind of expert do I need to improve my funnel. And you can begin to do maybe research and then ask AI to model a certain expert on funnels to be able to see and assess and analyze why your funnel isn't working. What you need to know what needs to get done, what AI can reasonably handle for you in a way that's accurate and truly helpful, so you're not redoing the whole thing, and what still needs you. So if you can have AI be agentic and take one of the things that's really feels heavy for you to do week to week and really master that and get it cleaned up and get it set up with just simply two things, the scheduled tasks and skills, because we have skills now in ChatGPT. We didn't have that before. We have it now. Then it's going to help you. And you're going to be able to see the magic of workflows just with those two features. And all of the AI platforms have those two features. You're going to be able to do so much. You're going to think, why was I thinking of using N8N? And why was I thinking of using Make and Zapier and everything else when this does so much? And with ChatGPT, it gives you a little notification in your email inbox. Ding, done. So with the others, you go there to the platform and you can see what it produced for you. For those of you who might be interested in joining my community, it's called AI Lab for Solopreneurs. AI Lab for Solopreneurs, it's a solopreneur created this lab for solopreneurs. So I am a marketing strategist, copywriter, and kind of an AI whisperer. I love technology, always have. And I created this private community to help solopreneur service providers be able to use AI in a smart way. You don't need all the programming and all the stuff that's out there. You need to know what's going to help me with this. And the best part is not only do I show up for coaching, I show up for coaching three weeks in the month. And then you can always reach out to me to DM me inside of the platform. I'm very accessible, very, very accessible. And you can also schedule a one-on-one call with me every quarter so that we can work on your marketing and AI and how we can improve it. And I'm not talking about 15-minute call. I'm talking about an hour call. So every quarter, when you set up your quarterly goals, you can schedule a call with me and we'll go over all of your funnel, your marketing, everything. with AI so that you can improve. So it's not scary. It's really easy. A lot of people there are from beginner to intermediate, and they are learning how to leverage AI. And I would love to have you join me. Now, if that doesn't sound like something you want to do, that's totally cool. Try the scheduled task and the skills in whatever platform you're using. Start with one task, not a complicated automation. You can have a couple of steps that you want, like the kind I explained. You can get it to where it's done really well. You'll be able to see how well you communicated with it. And pick something that's repetitive, something that feels heavy, something that would really help you in the long run, something that takes a long time for you to do. And start with that and wait to see the magic happen. It's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. Let AI earn the right to do more. Once it's done right, then you can get into larger workflows if that's what you want to do. So that's what I have for you. I so appreciate you guys just being here and listening. I really appreciate it. It's always an honor. And if you ever have a question, you can always DM me. I hope this was helpful. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.